Hello, my name is Rohit and I'm an architect with Sencha. Welcome to the part 3 of developing Sencha application. Today we are going to talk about how to adapt our Sencha application for both smartphones and tablets. If you see this UI which we have been building so far looks more like a phone UI. And if I had to do the same thing inside a tablet, if you had to view the same thing inside a tablet, it's probably not the best choice. So today what we're going to do is we will attempt to use Sencha's feature called as profiles to simply write some customization, add some customization to a Sencha's code so that we can simply switch between a mobile view and a tablet view. Please note, the focus of this tutorial is to understand Sencha's phone and smartphone and tablet profiles, but in no way we are claiming that what we are showing you here is a best practice. The focus entirely remains on how to use the profile feature. So without having said that, let's just switch over to the code. Now in the code so far, what we have seen is we don't have anything in call as profile. So let me walk you through what really profile is. So profile is something which just tells us that I need to load the Sencha application either for a smartphone or either for a tablet. A profile could be more specific to your requirement. It could even mean that it's for iPhone or Android, or it can even mean anything which you want. You can define profiles the way you want, and that's what we can do. Now, one way of working with profiles, simply said, is simply go in profiles and create a phone.js and say exdefine. Do everything by hand. The second way is to go to command prompt and use Sencha command line utility to add a profile. In this case, we will use direct coding, and even if we make some mistakes, we'll rectify them as we go ahead. So extend, I'm going to say extapp.profile, and this is what my profile really looks like. And then I'm going to configure the profile to look in a certain manner. Now when I configure my profile, there are a couple of things which you need to be aware of. So what we are going to do is I'm just going to refer to my existing code of profiles so we understand what you're looking at. So when you configure a profile, you have to configure a couple of things. You have to configure what views and controllers go specifically in that particular profile. You have to configure a method called as isActive, and you have to configure a launch method. Now let's code everything by hand and see what actually happens. So here we'll need to define the same things we defined in app.js. There's a lot of similarities between what you defined in your app.js or your controllers or your profiles. So let's get started over there. So in profile, you will put the profile specific views which you want to put. You will put profile specific controllers which you want to put, because typically when you're moving from smartphone to tablet, not every one of your views or every one of your controllers will change. You will only have certain views which are more like a container views which will change, and only few controllers related to those particular views change. Your model should not change and your store should not change. It might happen that in a tablet mode, because you are showing more widgets, you might have more stores, but your model and store should not get specific when you change from a smartphone profile to or a phone profile to a tablet profile. So let's just get this configured. So the most important method in a profile is something called as get active. And here what we can simply do is we can use Sencha touches, inbuilt methods, and I'll keep on referring to the code base which I already have, so I make minimal mistakes over there, and we can do something, or we can do things faster. So yes, that looks good. Next thing is we're gonna add a function called as launch. So if I happen to mention you earlier, here's how things work out. First of all, your controller's init method are called. Then your profiles launch method is called. And your, I guess your application launch method is called. And then your application launch method is called. Then your profile specific launch method is called. And then your application specific launch methods are called. So if you just want to understand it in a better manner, what I can do is I can just go to Sencha touch documentation and just run into that, and they will understand what I'm talking about. So here, if we just happen to browse through profile, or browse to some other things, they'll define the life cycle. Here's a launch process. So it's the other way around. Your controller, the init methods are called first. Then all your profiles launch methods, are called next. And the profile has to qualify. So the profile qualifies when its isActive method is called. New applications launch method is called. And then all the controllers which are supposed to get loaded, their launch methods are called. So this is how the life cycle typically works. So let's go back over here and see what would we do for profiles. So what I'll do is I'll add one more profile because we want to have two profiles over here. So tablet, and I'll just copy over my smartphone profile, paste it over here, and change things so that they appear like this. Now the first thing we'll do is we'll go to our app.js, and what we're going to do is we're going to comment out these lines. So I don't want to do anything specific in my application launch, so I'll try to do the same thing when it comes to my profile launch. So I'll have this functionality kind of replicated in both other things. Now what we really want to do next is we want to create views which are specific to profiles. Now if I switch over to my Chrome, you will see that this view is very much for a smartphone. So we'll just change this view to the bare bone and see how do you want to see things different for a smartphone and a tablet. So I'm going to go inside my view and I'm going to create a directory called as phone and tablet. So that's a naming convention typically. So I will move my main.js, which is typically talking about what it contains inside my phone. Once I move it inside my main.js, I will change its definition, and I'll copy this thing and put it in tablet also. And in this case, what I'll do is I'll again change the definition to make it tablet specific. I'm going to remove this particular part called as tab bar position. Now, once I've done that, I need to go to my phone.js and I have to register that, hey, main.js is something which, I want to show. The same thing is true for tablet profile. And lastly, we'll go and try to show profile specific view. So now we're delegating the functionality. We are taking the functionality of the application launcher and adding it to a profile. So here for a phone, I'm going to say I want to launch a phone specific main, And please note, these are not the best practices I'm claiming. This is just an exercise to get you familiar with profiles. So you could definitely enhance this tutorial to use better design patterns, but that is not the goal of this tutorial. So if I say this, now you'll see that nothing appears over here. It's because you have to mention it. Now, because we're using Chrome, we would mention it in this particular manner, but if you are on tablet or something else, you will have to, this is not mandatory. So what's happening is our main.app or app.js still refers to the view called as main, which is no longer present, so that's why we get this error. So now we're trying to break our applications and move the functionality part to more specific areas. So what could happen is, the definition over here is slightly wrong. So let me pull my reference code and compare it. ext app profile, views, and controllers. So the easiest thing which you can do is put console statements and figure out why things are not working. For this example, I'm just going to copy this thing and paste it below to use as a reference. So we are doing this thing as the same particular manner. Profile, config, views, and controllers, and the isActive is again the same, and the launch functions are again the same. So things look fine. What I'm not doing really is I'm not declared anything in the app.js saying that I have profiles. So I'll say phone because they're not being read right now, and tablet. And I think that's the problem which you're seeing over here. So you see, for a phone, I can see the tab bar still comes below, and when I switch over to tablet, I should see the tab bars going above. So this is the first customization which we are doing. Let's just go deeper and understand what else do we really require to do. Now, if you see the places container and the favorites container, these are something which needs to be different for both the areas, because we don't want the places controller and the favorites container to be navigation view for tablet. We really want it to be kind of a split view. We want to show the places XType on the left, and we want to show the details XType on the right. So again, what we're going to do is we will copy both, we'll move both this favorites container inside phone. They are more phone specific, so we're going to do that. And in this example, I'm not going to reuse code across views. There's a way of doing that, and I'll talk about it at the end. And here's a guidelines for that also. So here, mainly what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this view specific to phone. And what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to prefix the XTypes, just specific with those things. I'm going to copy this over to my tablet code. And I'm going to say, yeah, they are more tablet specific. Now people get confused in this, that if I'm only going to load one of these views at a time, why can't I reuse the XTypes? So ideally, and that would be an idle condition and much better for a developer, that just declare two views which are specific to either a phone or a tablet to use the same XType, and I should just be using a single XType to switch between two versions of the view. What happens is really that your profiles are loaded. So when the phone profile is loaded, its views are also loaded. When the tablet profiles are loaded, its views are also loaded. It's a different thing that after it's loaded, we try to figure out what kind of profile is active. But that's why two views, like this and like this, cannot exist with the same X type. And this part, I don't like it myself, but unless Sencha changes its mechanism in a sense that you don't activate anything in the profile unless it's active, would be a nicer way. But that's a topic for that's something to discuss at some other time. So here we're gonna just add favorites container, and we're gonna add places container. Just gonna copy paste this over to the tablet, and I'm gonna go to my app.js, and I need to remove those entries from over here and see what is common stays in app.js, what is specific comes inside the profiles. Now what we'll do next is we're just gonna change the main.js to use phone specific X type. Similarly, we're gonna use tablet specific X type. And what we'll do in the favorites container is we're gonna say it's not really a container, it's not really a navigation view, it's a container. And we will add a couple of things over here. So we will say the X type details which you want to add to this text, and we will add some properties to this X type. So we're going to customize the favorites X type over here, and we're going to say that okay, your width is supposed to be limited to 300 and you will be docked to left. And the same thing we'll do for places container for places. So this is how things would look like. We'll just do one more thing is we will add a title to both this container because they're not navigation views, so they won't have a default title. So I'm just gonna add a X type title bar, and then I'm gonna add title as favorites, and I'm gonna say docked to top. Now repeat this thing for the places container. We wrote a lot of code, and let's see if it actually works. So let me do a refresh, and we're seeing that there's some disparity happening. So quite frankly, I need to change this things, and it looks better now. There's more spelling mistakes which I'm making. So phone is all fine. And in main.js, more spelling mistakes. So I'm going to go back over here. And as you'll see, if I go to places, it only shows things over here. Things on this side. So this is what we intend to do anyways. But you will see that everything is broken now. Things do not work the way I expected it to work. And things are not fitting also the way I wanted to fit it. So I'm going to go to my containers and I'm just going to make it fit. The one thing which you can do for width and the various things is you can actually check for what kind of profile do I have and just give values, different values for smartphones and for tablets over here. So you can just say, is it a tablet version, then this much width? Is it a phone version, then this much width? Now it's really an if-else code, and I don't like it per se, but I've seen a lot of Sencha test example good at in code in that particular manner. So yeah. So what we'll do now next is we're just going to look at the places it doesn't work the way I want it to work, and I won't leave this example at a place where it's it's a perfect example. I will rather just show you how things change when you switch like this. So when you switch like this, it's all fine, but you will see that things are broken now. So now we need to fix them. So first of all, we'll focus on fixing the phone specific solutions. So what happens is, in this case, is your details controller is using still the old XTypes, which are not valid anymore. And the details controller has to work differently. This is a details controller for a phone where you're trying to push things in a navigation view. For a tablet, we have that view already there, and we just want to modify it. Now, I'm not going to give you a perfectly running example at the end of this tutorial. It's merely going to focus on how do I use profiles to get a different behavior for both of them. So I'm gonna move this details controller inside my details.js, and I'm gonna make it more specific to details by changing its definition, and it more or less should work fine, just that I will change the XTypes over here. I'll change the XTypes over here and over here, and I'm just gonna switch over to browser, and I'm gonna see if it's actually starts working. There's something which is missing now. What happens is I didn't go and change my controllers. I need to remove the details controllers from over here, and I need to go and add these controllers over here and over here. Let me just refresh one more time and see why it's not loading. So it looks like we didn't copy this details controller to tablet. So we'll do that, and we'll keep it slightly broken for now. We'll just load this. So when I click over here, things are working the way I expected it to work. So if I remove this, go back. If I remove this, go back. If I remove this, go back. Things are the way I want it. So if I come over here, it's not added. It's not added. And if I go, that fixes the tablet part of the phone part of things. Now we need to write a different logic for tablet. Now first of all, for tablet, I need to change the code itself. So here, first of all, I'm gonna change my selectors. So I actually am able to catch the event. The main thing which is different about tablets is I don't really require these two entries, and I don't have to create an entry really. So what I really need is my details view at any given time. So I'm gonna say, let me refer to my other source code. Right. So what I'm gonna do is, in a tablet version, I'm gonna say, places details, and I'm gonna say favorite details. And if you see my code over here, inside the favorites container, the tablet specific favorite container, we got details. So I'm going to use that X part. So I'm going to say details over here. So I get access to that. And instead of creating a new thing like this, I'm just going to simply say this.get places details. And I don't need to push it to any view. Similarly over here, I'll say this dot get favorites details. And again, no need to push it there because it just is statically available over there. What I will do next is I'll change my details view a bit, and I'll tell the button that it is actually hidden always. There's a reason behind that. And I'll tell my favorites controller that if data is actually present, then only go and show it. So somewhere over here I need to add a change. We will worry about this later on. So we'll just go to the code and see if things still work. Things would work. Okay. I need to make it unhidden. And it's coming over here. Let's just move to a tablet view and see how things work the way we want it. In places when I come over here, you will see the annoying that this is showing the buttons also, and that's why I wanted to get rid of it. But when I click on things, my controller is kicking into picture, and this is the tablet specific details controller. Same thing happens over here. If I remove this, it works. Go over here. The problem which I really have is my button is showing up. So I'm just going to refer to my second source code to quickly see the solution which I devised before. So I mentioned my places detail that is hidden, and whenever this even gets fired, I'm saying button not set hidden is false. So good. So I was on the right track. And in my favorites, I'm gonna say button dot set hidden is equal to false. So what's going to happen with this is it's going to solve some set of problem, but not all. So like, for example, if I go over here, I don't see anything. Over here, when I click on this, I see things. If I add it to favorites, and I go here, I see that. The problem which I am not solving right now, and this seems to be broken for some reason. If I click over here, everything works, and if I click over here, things are not working quite the way they should. Let me just add one more placeholder. Just look at the console for things. Let's try to fix this problem. So what we can just do is debug to details. I'm going to go to my scripts. I'm going to debug to wow. Okay, so I'll try to keep things over here, and I'll try to debug things for both of these things. And okay, let it be. There's some issue which is happening, which you guys can figure out how to go ahead. I understand this video hasn't been the greatest video which I'm showing, but it gives a fair enough idea of what profiles are. So let's just go back and recap on what profiles are really there for. So in app.js, you go and declare two profiles, one for phone and one for tablet. Then you declare profiles. Profiles typically extend ext app.profile. In the profiles config, you specify the views and controllers which are specific to your particular profile. You will remove these views and controllers from the app.js because they have to be loaded by the profile. Then you will have a function called as isActive, where you're gonna this thing is gonna determine whether this profile is active or not. So in the app.js, given the order we are setting the profiles, it will go and check which is active, and the first profile which is active, it will activate it. The next thing which we have really is the launch method. So we actually emptied the launch method in our app.js, and now we're doing things specifically in our launch method of profiles. And here we are specifically loading a phone specific main or a tablet specific main. Now in the views section, we have this directory structures for phone and tablet. And if you look at the main JS of phone, you will see that it's loading phone specific XType, and the tablet is loading tablet specific XType. Now yes, you need to have XType specific to each profile. You cannot have two views share the same XType, because when the profile loads up, it actually loads up. So it will actually go and load views and controllers. It's a different thing whether the profile is active or not, but at any given time, both your profiles are going to load up. So you're going to have repeat of places container from the phone profile and places container from the tablet profile. So you cannot have the same XType. If you try with the same XType, you're not going to get results which you expect. So you're going to have profile specific XType. Now, having said that, we've done things differently over here. Now this started to show things differently because our places controller for tablet uses a different kind of a view, where we embed the details right inside the view, and we are just limiting the favorites to a 350 pixel panel which is docked towards the left. Same thing we're doing for the places container. Now this really breaks the way things work for the controller. So we make the controller also specific to both phone and tablet, and here we are changing the selectors and using the phone specific XType. So the phone thing doesn't really change. In the tablet specific things, we are doing things differently. So in the phone specific thing, we are doing things like we got a navigation view. You're pushing things in a navigation view. Here instead, we're simply getting hold of a details panel which always lives, and then we are trying to show the record over there. So that's what we really end up doing. And the profile is where I mentioned that this details controller is part of it, and we're going to remove the details controller from the app.js. So as I mentioned to you earlier, I do not intend to solve all the problems of profiles or give you a perfect running example or give the best practices of a profile. This is more about understanding how you can package your applications. And remember the life cycle. It's first of all controllers init is called, then profiles launch is called, then the applications launch is called, and then the controller launch is called. So pay attention to that particular life cycle. So I hope this kind of gives you an insight into what profiles are. So thank you for being patient with me, and over and out.